About one of the very topics which is very close to my heart, which is marketing metrics for profitable growth. Now, we all know that there is a lot of ups and downs in the DTC world. So many moving parts. We talk about CPM, CTR, we talk about iOS 14, we talk about conversion rates. So I'll try to hopefully I'll try to make it simple for all of us present here. And towards the end of the session, the idea is if all of you can have some takeaways which can help each of you grow your DTC websites profitably, I think that would be a win-win for me. So just a very brief of what I'm going to be talking about. I'll talk about maybe a very brief success story of a DTC brand which we have worked with. Typical journey of sale for any DTC website. I think that's something which most of you know, but I would just probably review it. But more importantly, 6 MECE matrices. MECE is mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. How to, let's say, improve upon each metric. I'll cover maybe 1 or 2 or 3 techniques or tricks which I have seen my clients use. And most importantly, we'll talk about a worksheet today for measuring the marketing metrics, which each of you after this session can take home. You can fill in your metrics and you can see where the gaps exist and where can we actually bring in more efficiency. So that's sort of the agenda for today. Jumping straight into the content. Of course, any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. More than happy to answer it over chat or towards the end of this session. So I'll start with a very quick case study of this brand called Aacho. It's a Shopify website. They scaled very rapidly last year between August to October. I know August to October is a festive season, and which is why most of the stores scale during this time. But they also scaled at a very good efficiency. So they were close to around, let's say, 10x plus on Facebook and 10x plus on Google in terms of their ROAS. And this is one of the very unique case studies. Not every brand gets there. But the idea is not whether it's 10x or 8x or 6x. The idea is how do you even start looking at ROAS and what can any brand do to improve whatever performance they are getting in marketing. Whether it is 1x, you can improve a 1x. If it's a 10x, you can of course improve a 10x also. So that's the case study I wanted to start with. And just jumping to the typical journey, I think all of you know this journey. All of you are brand owners. So the way it happens across most stores, I've seen that 80% of sales mostly comes from ad platforms. And ad platforms are Facebook, Instagram, Google. And this is how the journey looks like. So you show an ad on Facebook or Google. The person clicks on the ad. After clicking, they land on the product page or the home page or the category page. Then they add a particular product to cart. They then proceed to the shipping and the checkout page and complete the transaction. And maybe a couple of months later, they might come back, couple of months or weeks, they might come back and make a purchase again. So this, in a very simplistic manner, is sort of a journey from getting a person to discover your brand to becoming like a sort of a loyal customer of a brand. And what I've also done, more importantly, is at each stage, I have written down some matrices which actually impact the funnel. So between seeing an ad and clicking, there is something called cost per click. Between clicking and landing page view by link click, which effectively means that not everybody who clicks on your ad actually lands on the website. We'll talk more about it as we go along. And then there is an add to cart percentage, that once someone lands on your product page, what percentage of them add the product to cart. There is a transaction percentage, that after add to cart, how many make a purchase. Average order value, of course, everybody knows about it. And at the end, there is a repeat customer rate as to what percentage of your customers are actually repeat customers. So what I'll do is I'll pick out these 6 matrices, and we'll talk about more as we go along. But I think first we have a quick poll for all of you, and Aman can probably launch that poll. So the poll is, what is the typical customer repeat rate on your DTC website? And this will also help us understand the audience out here. So what have you seen as the customer repeat rate on your website? We got around 10 to 15 votes. Maybe we'll wait for another 30 seconds for everybody to vote. So one way to define repeat customer rate is also what percentage of your revenue in any particular month comes from your existing customers. So slightly simplistic definition, but that's a lot of times that's the definition which is used in the industry. Great. So I think we'll end the poll. Jagan, is there a way we can project the results of the poll?
You can quickly show everyone the results.
Okay.
I've done that.
Perfect. Oh, that's great. So what I can see is a good, let's say 50% of the people said that the repeat customer rate which they see on their website is around 10 to 20%, right? And then we had another 25% of the people say it's greater than 20%, and the balance talk about less than 10%. So that's a very good number coming up. You'll see that in my follow-on slides, I have similar numbers. That's what I've usually seen in the industry as well. So let's keep moving. So this is going to be the anchor slide for today. It's actually a screenshot from a worksheet which we'll be sharing after this session today. What I've done is I've listed down all the 6 matrices which I introduced in the previous slide. CPC, LPV, 2LC, cart, transaction, AOV, and repeat percentage. And I've taken a base scenario of a brand. This is a hypothetical brand. And what sort of matrices do they have on each of these 6? And what does it translate into ROAS? Now, what you need to understand is these 6 matrices are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, which means that if you have these 6 matrices for your DTC store, your ROS will be a definite number. So there will not be any ambiguity left in the ROS if you're able to get these 6 numbers for your DTC website. Okay. So what we all need to understand today is ROS is actually an outcome. So if you want to increase ROS for your store, the way you have to do it is you have to control the input matrices. Just trying to increase the ROS without tinkering with the input matrices will actually be not very impactful. So the question is, which of these input matrices should you be focusing on? And the answer lies in the typical range which I have included in the next column, what you can see on the slide also. So what I would suggest each of you is go back, take the worksheet, put in these numbers, and you'll be able to see where is the opportunity for improvement. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, the base case scenario of this particular store which I have taken actually has improvement in each of these levers. And I'll tell you why. If you look at the CPC, I've taken a CPC of 20 rupees. And what we have typical range which we have seen is 10 to 15 rupees, which means CPC is higher for this base brand. If you look at landing page view by link click, 65%, we are saying that the range should be 70 to 80, so this is lower. So in this particular case, each of these matrices, you will see that we have taken it slightly either outside the range or on the bottom side of the range. The idea is because of all this, the ROS translates into a 91%. And we do understand that for a DTC brand to be profitable today, 91% is not the ideal ROS. We'll come back to this slide towards the end of this presentation. But for the next, let's say 10 to 15 minutes, what I'll do is I'll pick up each metric and I'll talk about 2 to 3 crisp things which a brand can do to make sure that the metric improves. So let's pick up the first one, which is cost per click. And I know a lot of you would know ways to improve cost per click or reduce cost per click, but I'll talk about 2 or 3 which I find the most impactful. The first, which I'll talk about, is how do you create the right ad copy, right? And we all know that ad copy should have very attractive images. Of course, if the images are attractive, more people will click and the CPC will come down. But images are not the only thing. There are 3 or 4 other techniques which can be used as well. So number one, you can put up your brand logo on the ads. So as you can see on the bottom image, there is a brand logo put up. Number 2, you can put up strike-through prices. Strike-through prices is very, very impactful. So if you are in a discount season and you have an MRP of 5,000 rupees and you have put a 20% discount, don't just say 20% discount, actually put in the strike-through price. So as you can see on the top image, it's 4,999 strike-through 3,999, which actually becomes more impactful. Then you can also create some urgency. So you can say that 20% off for Raksha Bandhan, 20% off only for 10 days. That also increases the CTR. We can have overlays of discounts, like one of our brands, Ray Rabbit, does that 50% off overlay. And we can also add some emoticons. So as you can see, both the ad copies, there are some emoticons there. There are brands which have these tick marks, which have this hand signal. So all these things help you catch the user attention and increase the CTR, or rather reduce the cost per click. Okay. Now, one more thing which can be done here, which a lot of brands usually miss out on, is frequently updating the ad text. And to me, that's the most important thing, and I'll tell you why. Because when people are on Facebook or Instagram, they're scrolling their screen, and the first thing what they do is they read the first line of the ad text, and the first line is same, then their brain sort of tells them that this is the same ad, and they tend to skip it. And all of this happens involuntarily. It's also known as ad blindness in the industry. So frequently updating ad copies is very important. Moving on, second lever which any brand can pull to reduce CPC is use the right creative format. Now, this is super important. So let's say if you're selling an apparel brand, let's say you're selling a t-shirt or a dress, just showing the image is sufficient. Like if you see the image on the right side, you pretty much know that it's a dress which somebody is selling, the color is pink, and it can be worn at parties, which is great for fashion. But imagine if you're selling, let's say, Ayurveda, right? And you show an image which is in the middle of the screen of a nice bottle, right? How would people understand the USP of the product? What is so unique about this Ayurveda? How is it different from the other 50 Ayurveda brands? I know you may have written a lot of ad text on the image or a lot of ad text on the top of it, but not many people on Facebook have the patience to go through the entire ad text and identify how is this brand different from 50 other brands, right? And same is true with beauty. Let's say you're selling face cream, skincare products. Very, very tough to explain the USP of the product based on just image. So what is highly recommended for this category is to use video creatives. It could be influencer videos, it could be user-generated videos. Doesn't matter if it's production ready or studio created videos, it could be a TikTok video. But the core thing which is important is the USP of the product, which is unique selling point, should come out as part of the video. The third point is slightly different from the first and second, which is run Performance Max campaigns. Now, many of you would know that Google has launched a category of campaigns called Performance Max. The unique thing about Performance Max is, by nature, it has lower cost per click. So an average cost per click from a Performance Max campaign would be around 5 to 10 rupees. And what you get on a Facebook, Google could be 20, 30, 40 rupees also. So when you blend in your marketing campaigns and put a certain percentage of budget on Performance Max campaigns, you will see that the blended CPC on the website comes down. The beauty of Performance Max is also these are intent traffic. These are people who are actually searching on google.com. Like in the screenshot, you can see purple sweet set being searched. So by nature, these people are high intent and more likely to convert on the website. And I'll probably just run over this slide. This is called discovery ads. Now, some of you would have noticed that when you scroll on YouTube, you see these nice carousel ads, which are very similar to the carousel ads on Facebook. This is still an early mover advantage because not many brands are still advertising on YouTube so much. So what we see is when you run discovery ads, the CPCs are much lower, sometimes even as low as 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 4 rupees. So highly recommended to run discovery ads on YouTube. So we spoke about 3-4 levers of CPC. We'll talk about the next lever, which is landing page view to link click. What it essentially means is if 100 people are clicking on your Facebook or Google ad, not all of them are landing on the website. On an average, we have seen that 20% of the people typically drop off in the journey. And the reason is it's a user behavior. They may have clicked by mistake. They may have changed their mind. But if the number is 20%, it's totally fine. For the sample store which we looked at, the number was 35%, which means 35% of the people never even land on the website. And what can be done to do that, to reduce that percentage? Two things. One, typically the product page should load very quickly because most of the traffic from Facebook and Google actually comes on the product page. So pay special attention to how quickly the product page is loading. How can we make it faster? Google Page Speed Insights has a lot of those insights. Shopify themselves does a tremendous job there. But things like optimizing your images, optimizing videos can certainly help you make the product page load faster. What I would highly recommend is start measuring this number because a lot of brands don't even measure this number. They would see 100 clicks on Facebook and 80 sessions on Google Analytics without realizing that there is a 20% dropout happening in between. Because pretty much a lot of times we don't put together the two data. And second thing which can be done to increase this number is actually land people on the product page. Now, this is very, very important. We have seen extensively across brands that when we land people on the home page, people typically sort of get confused by the number of options on the home page. Instead, when we show a product on Facebook or Instagram or Google and land people on the product page, people typically have an easier path to conversion. So a rule of thumb is very simple. Lesser clicks to conversion, higher the conversion rate. When you land people on homepage, you're actually giving them way too many options. And people generally, it's an impulse buy. So they may not be very free at that point in time to explore all the categories, explore all the products. So typically landing on the product page is recommended. Moving on to the third metric, add to cart percentage. Add to cart percentage is also a very key metric which any brand should track. What can be done to improve it? Very simple, basic logic that what you see in the ad copy is what you get on the website. Now, this is easier, very simple to understand, but slightly difficult to implement. What I mean by that is a few things. That the price you see on the ad copy should be the price you see on the landing page. Second, if there is a discount you see on the ad copy, the same discount coupon code should be available on your website at the top banner or the product page. If COD is available on the website, then it has to be on the ad copy. If COD is not available, then it has to be mentioned in the ad copy. If there are shipping charges on the website, then it has to be mentioned in the ad copy. So effectively, there should not be any surprises for the user. The lesser the surprises, the higher would be the cart percentage. Few things which can be done on the product page to improve the add to cart percentage, because add to cart percentage in a way is the performance of your product page. Some of these are very trivial, that the image quality should be good, the description should be there on the product page, the USP of the product should come out. So these are quite basic ones, but definitely very impactful. Like I've seen brands which are selling, let's say, cloth, a kurti cloth, and the description doesn't say it's cloth or is it ready-made, right? And these things can create confusion in minds of the user and they may drop off on the product page. A few other interesting things on the product page which are not so obvious is recommended product section is very, very important because most of your traffic lands on the product page. They may not have seen other products on your website. And very few people actually go to the hamburger menu on the top left and click on it and then go back to the home page and then select another product and go to the product page. So recommended products is super impactful. having, like I said, a top banner of discount coupon code is very, very important, because people forget the coupon code by the time they land on the product page, and then they drop off thinking that, look, I don't remember the coupon code. And having reviews can definitely build more credibility. So few things which can be done to improve the add to cart percentage. Now, before we jump into transaction, I think we have a quick poll coming up again. And I would request Aman if you can just launch that poll. So what is the conversion rate on your Shopify store is the question. And we have given 4 ranges of conversion rates. So we've got 20 votes. We'll probably just wait for another 30 seconds before we end the poll. Yes, it could be based on the number of sessions. So total sessions on the website as denominator and total transactions as numerator. Great. So I'll just end the poll. I think you must be able to see the poll results. So 50% of the people are saying their conversion rate is above 1%, and 50% of the people are saying the conversion rate is below 1%. It looks like a very nice, normally distributed curve. So very interesting insights. And you will see when I come to my subsequent slides as to what more can be done to improve the conversion rate. Let me just go back to my slide. So conversion rate is actually a combination of add to cart percentage, transaction percentage, and landing page view by link click. So all these 3 matrices put together actually give you the conversion rate. So what we spoke about in the last few slides is actually very applicable to increase your conversion rate. So what I've here is I have a quick video, and I think I'll just run the video. It may not be very clear, so just try to follow what's happening. And the idea is, if you can figure out why would people drop off after add to cart. And this is a checkout page, if you can see. So it was a little fast video, but I've taken screenshots in the next page to sort of explain the point. So like I said in the past, that users should come with the right expectation on the website. So if you see on the leftmost screenshot, there's a cash on delivery charges of 100 rupees. We have usually seen that when user has a price point in mind, let's say 11.99 or 15.99, it kind of sends anchor in their mind, and any extra rupee, even if it's 50 rupees or 100 rupees, typically makes them believe that the product is now more expensive than what they had imagined the product to be. So we don't recommend adding COD charges. We would ideally recommend that we can give discount on prepaid instead of adding COD charges. But if you still have to add COD charges, you can either mention it all in the ad copy that COD charges applicable, or mention it on the product page. But don't give a surprise or shock to the user when they land on the checkout page, because they're very close to conversion. And at that point in time, giving them a shock or a surprise typically lowers the conversion rate. The second example, what we see is shipping method, and you can see standard shipping method and a charge being applicable. Again, the same point. If shipping charges are applicable, then it has to be mentioned on the top banner or the product page. Set their expectations right from the beginning of the journey. And the last is no COD available. We have usually seen that India is a COD market, and when COD is removed from the website, the conversion rate drops by about 60%. which effectively means that your marketing cost actually goes 3x. So if you're getting a customer for 500, you're now getting it for 1500. So not a recommended practice, but in case you still want to remove COD because of the nature of the product, maybe you're selling fine jewelry, maybe it's a very expensive product, then the recommendation would be that you have to mention it in the ad copy that only online payment available, so that they come with the right mindset, like I said. So these are the few examples of how to increase the cart to purchase ratio. We just have 2 more metrics to cover in another 10 minutes maybe. Average order value is super important, and I'll tell you why it's important. So typically, like I said, a cost of click is usually around 10 to 15 rupees. And we just saw that the conversion rate on an average is 1%, what we saw among the audience here. But let's assume it's 2%. And 2% is the best in class we have seen on Shopify websites, which effectively means that out of 50 people coming on your website, 1 person is converting. You can see the math which I've put on the slide also. Now, cost of getting 50 people on the website, very simply 50 multiplied by 10 or 50 multiplied by 15. So it comes to around 500 to 750 rupees. And this is the range of acquisition cost we see across a lot of brands. Honestly, 500 is very, very aggressive. We usually don't even see 500. We usually see 600, 800, 900. And for the same math which I just spoke about, right? What that effectively means is if the average order value is 300, 400, or 500, it becomes very, very tough to get an ROS above 1x, because you're paying 600 rupees to Facebook or Google, and the customer is buying a 400 rupee product. I know you may say the customer will come back again and again and again, but we all know that in India, loyalty and repeat customer rates are not very high. So one good way of improving ROS is very simply increase the average order value. How can it be done? Simple example here, create a bundle of 2, bundle of 3, bundle of 4. And we have seen so many brands successfully able to pull off, whether it's like a Valentine combo or a Diwali combo or a pack of 3 or a pack of 5. But most cases, what we typically recommend is the average order value should be above 700, 800 for CPG or FMCG brands, and if possible, above 1500 for fashion brands. Another example of Borosil, quick hack to increase the average order value, especially ahead of festive season, is just push more budget behind your high AOV products. So if you have a dinner set on your website, you might as well push dinner set on Facebook and Google and not worry about those small bowls which you are selling. Because like we said, whether you sell a bowl or a dinner set, you are anyways paying at least 600 to 800 rupees to Facebook. You might as well sell a dinner set for the same amount. And the last metric is repeat rate for today. So most of you would have come across these, not very difficult. So remarketing campaigns on Facebook and Google definitely help. But 2 points there which a lot of us miss out on. Of course, you must be remarketing your website traffic. You must be remarketing the add to cart dropouts. What I've seen brands miss out on is, number one, if they have offline stores, then the offline customer data can also be remarketed. And number two, you can remarket people coming on the homepage who have never visited your product pages. You can also remarket people who have interacted with you on, let's say, a Facebook page or an Instagram page or Facebook Messenger, or even who have seen videos on Facebook or who have watched videos on YouTube. So a lot of these audiences are not covered in a typical dynamic remarketing campaign. So we see a lot of brands who sort of miss out on these audiences. Highly recommended to run them. Remarketing is better done on email and SMS than it's done on Facebook and Google. So we highly recommend brands to use an email SMS automation or some tool or in-house. You can see an example of Malmal as a brand, very nice email marketing to bring customers back. And they also have these nice SMSs going out to customers to bring them back. Very nice WhatsApp messages going out to customers to bring them back. So if you ask me to rate these platforms in the effectiveness of remarketing, number one I have seen is WhatsApp in India now. Second could be email and SMS. And third would be Facebook and Google, because Facebook and Google are not the best platforms for customer remarketing. We're talking about customer remarketing, not the dropouts on the website. So that's the last slide for today. I think a lot of slides and yarn already done. But what I was trying to show you here is we started with this slide in the beginning. We said we have 6 MECE matrices. We spoke about the typical range, and we took an example of a brand which had 91% ROAS. What we have done is we've identified levers for improvement, and we're saying that if each lever is able to improve the metric by 20%, of course 20% sounds a little aggressive, but we have more than one lever also, which means the CPC will go down to 16, the LTV to LC will increase to 78, cart to 12, transaction percentage will improve to 18%, AOV will go up to 1800, and repeat customer rate will increase to 24%. If you put all these together and calculate the ROS actually comes up to 249%. So we are saying that 6 matrices, 6 levers for improvement, and you're able to increase the return on ad spend from, let's say, 0.9x to 2.5x, which is, in my opinion, a great jump. So we'll have all this as part of the worksheet, which we'll share after this. And very quickly about Adyogi, we are a marketing automation platform. We sync with Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, and we help any DTC brand market across various ad platforms. So I'll just quickly pause here, and over to you, Jagan, for any Q&A.
Yes, Anshuk. Thank you very much. Just a quick question, like, are you going to share the worksheet directly to the chat box here? And we will also put that in the part of the post-program presentations, right? We'll do both.
Yes, we can do both. So I'll just share that worksheet link in the next couple of minutes.
Okay. If you could put that in the chat box, so people will be beneficial directly, right? And then we can obviously share that over an email post the program as well. That's
Absolutely.
one. Otherwise, it was good. I think there are a lot of questions on the chat box as well as people raising their hands. So without making them wait for a long time, I'll open this up to the Q&A. Chaitanya, you raised your hand. You wanted to ask any question?
Thanks. Yes, Jagan. Anshuk, thanks for all the information, right? It was very informative. So I have a 2-part question. One, we see the conversion rates going down the drain when it comes to Facebook. Have you noticed a similar trend? So we cater to US markets majorly in North America. So is it just with them, or the same thing happening within India as well? That's the first question. Second, we have about 11.39% returning customer rate. About $170 is the average order value, right? But when it comes to our conversions within the toy industry, it says 1 to 2.5 e-commerce, but we cater to a very niche market, which is, we make custom toys from kids' artwork, kids' drawing, right?
Okay.
So is 0.75, 0.8% decent? Not, I mean, we'd like to definitely, be on par with what the industry is dictating, right? 2.5% or 3%, but I see a very high, a decent average order value, but returning customers is about 11%. We can probably push it further. We'll see the difference when we hit the holiday season around Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas seasons, right? So how could we, how do we increase the conversion rate? One, can Adyogi help in North American markets, because there is a higher conversion rate when it comes to TikTok versus Instagram in the US market as well? So can you help us? Or
got it. So I'll answer your first question first. So your point was around, have we seen a decline in conversion rates traffic coming from Meta platforms, which is Facebook and Instagram? We have seen a little bit of a decline. I believe that's the impact of the iOS 14, which was rolled out last year in July, where people on Apple devices had an option to opt in on Facebook tracking or third-party tracking instead of opt out. So earlier opt-in was the default. Now opt-out was the default. So we have seen that geographies which have high share of iOS, and US is one of them, have seen an impact on the efficiency. How can it be circumvented? One of the ways is to implement Conversions API. Shopify has a direct integration with Conversions API. Having said that, that still may not, let's say, solve 100% of the problem. The other alternative we have seen is to reduce dependency of meta platforms. At least in the US geography, our experience has been that Google's share of ecosystem, which is search, shopping, discovery, and YouTube, together across most US brands we have seen, typically take more than 50% of the budget. So I would also recommend that in case you are spending more on Meta, you may want to reconsider that split.
So there is a challenge when it comes to Google platforms, right? So Shopify by default offers gift cards, right? And the minute we list a gift card on our store, Google tags it as dangerous and they reject our merchant store, right? But Google Play Store gift cards are all over the internet, right? Very hypocritical of Google, but then, I mean, our customers do opt for gift cards and, you know, so we have not heavily invested on Google, but off late, it's been Snap and TikTok. So
got it. Okay. So what we can do, Chaitanya, is we can also pick up the second part of your question of whether Adyogi can help or not, maybe separately out of this conversation, in the interest of everybody's time. But let me connect with you offline after the event on the second part.
sure, I will leave my email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. Anshuk, I
Thanks.
think conscious that there are a lot of people waiting and there are a lot of questions also. Just wanted to touch base that we have, I know people are curious. We have sessions planned tomorrow and day after as well, where we are going to get deeper into Google and Meta platforms in the day 3. And tomorrow again, we have session from Anshuk. So Anshuk is going to be around answering a lot of questions. So certain things, if you can wait for day 2, day 3, please, take that up, Anshuk, accordingly.
Absolutely, Jagan. We can probably quickly take a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
I could see Sunil has raised his hand.
Over to you, Sunil. Sunil, are you available?
Jagan, you may have to unmute Sunil.
Not necessarily from my side, I think. Okay, let's go with Prashant's question and then I'll see.
Yeah. So my question is simple, please. After that last July, and I don't know the other things, but like they're not able to find out the orders which are coming from Facebook or which are coming from Google. We have tried UTM tracking and even putting some additional tracking codes and all that, but we ended up having more double the conversion seen in analytics, half the conversion seen in Shopify, and things are not clear. I don't know. Just what has happened. No, we are not able to figure out. Just that app is not enough for us to understand how many conversions we are getting.
Yes, I think that's a very, very valid question, Prashant. We see that attribution has become a problem in the last 1 year. Some of it is because of the iOS 14 impact, which I spoke about. So I can tell you 2 things which can be done. One, I've usually seen that a lot of brands are now moving towards a slightly simpler metric. So rather than looking at Facebook ROAS and Google ROAS, what we have started recommending brands is to look at a metric called CRR, which is cost to revenue ratio, which is effectively saying that what is the total marketing spend on the Shopify store divided by what is the total revenue seen on the Shopify store. And as long as the CRR is within acceptable limit, let's say 20%, 30%, whatever is as per the brand, we can continue scaling the brand on Facebook and Google. The benefit that is I've seen brands which are not scaling because they see that ROS on Facebook and they get a little surprised and scared. On the contrary, when they see revenue on the Shopify, that looks perfectly fine. So that's the simple answer. I would suggest that start looking at CRR as a metric. Unfortunately, there is no easy answer to solving the attribution problem. I cannot suggest a simple thing, the download thing and all these answers will come. It's a complex problem, which I'm sure the industry is also circumventing somehow.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's just not that are we on track or not. we are taking the bigger parameters. But like within the campaigns, we don't know which campaign to stop, which campaign to amplify. It's creating a
Which,
lot of myopic this thing view now.
correct, which I would suggest you can do it based on the ROS which you see on the screen, as an on your ad accounts, because directionally that number would still be right. Maybe that 1x is not 1x but 2x, but 1.5x is definitely better than the 1x of the other campaign. So directionally, campaign ROS can help. So Jagan, just one question: how much time do we have for questions?
So we can wait for another couple of minutes, Anshuk.
Got it. Perfect.
Okay,
Would you be
sure.
able to?
Can we move on to next one, like Laida Fashion? People had a question from there.
Yeah. Hi, Jagan.
Hey, please
Hi,
introduce
Anshul.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Deepak from Lida Fashion Jewelry. Sorry for my voice. It's down today. Hi, Anshuk. How are you? So,
I'm doing very well.
yeah. So I have a couple of meeting with Adyogi representatives, and my brand is only on the marketplaces as of now. And we have already started with Shopify. Earlier we were with some other platform, and now I wanted to do performance marketing through Adyogi. But what I came to know from your representative was that I have to do everything on my own. It's like DIY time. And if I have to if I want a account manager or somebody who can do all the connections for me on Facebook and Instagram, then the account budget has to be very high initially only. Is that the case? Because I see so many freelancers who are approaching us on LinkedIn and other platform to handle our accounts, but we were keen to go ahead with Adyogi only.
Absolutely, ma'am. I can quickly answer that. So while it looks like a DIY platform, we
Yeah.
do have a plan for startups where we support them via chat support, and we help them set up the entire account. We help them set up the pixel. We help them optimize everything. The only difference is we don't have a call support or a dedicated AM. But this program for us works very well. We already work with 100+ stores on the same program. So what I would suggest is maybe one of our team members can get on a call with you just to differentiate this program from a pure DIY. It's not a pure DIY in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would help us because doing it first time, as a DIY, and we were not very much sure to go ahead there.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Thank you, Anshuk.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jagan.
Sid, do you have a question?
No, Jagan, I didn't. I was just testing whether it's working or not.
Okay, awesome. Fine. Anyone? We have Chetan, maybe the last question, and then we will be available for another 5-10 minutes where we can answer people in on chat.
Hi Anshuk, this was really helpful. I have a very basic question. Maybe I missed something in the beginning. In very simple terms, what exactly does Adyogi do?
Yes. So Chetan, we are a marketing platform. So we sync your Facebook and yes, we sync your Shopify website to the Adyogi panel. We are able to pull all the products and intelligence from the Shopify website. Then with one click, we have integrations with Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, so that your ad copies can be pushed directly to these platforms. Some predefined targeting options, which we have seen work across DTC, which can be applied to the campaigns, and detailed insights and analytics on how the campaigns are performing. So think of us as the performance marketing platform for a DTC. We do provide an account management support for certain enterprise brands. For others, we have a very dedicated support team to help a brand scale their ads.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chetan.
Okay. Hey, Ananya, probably one last question for the day.
Hi, Anshuk. Wanted to ask, so we are primarily a foods brand and staples brand. So in general, what would you say the AOV and ROAS should be for a brand like us? And is increasing the SKUs and upselling SKUs the only way you would consider increasing the AOV? Because why I ask this question is because there is a limit to what one can consume in a month as a family, right? So you cannot keep selling more of the same food item.
Absolutely, Ananya. Very, very, very relevant question. So in the food space, we have usually seen that the average order values are, even after like bundling and a lot of upselling, the average order values remain around 600, 800, 900 in most cases. What we usually see in this space is two things. One, in the first purchase, the ROS usually is not more than 1x, which means if you're selling something for 800, you might end up paying 800 to Facebook, Google. But typically the food space runs on repeat customer rate. So we have seen that repeat customer rates of food brands can be as high as 40, 50, 60%, which is why they are able to sustain such low ROAS. The second thing, what we also seen, especially from the food industry, that's also an industry which is slightly more open to using marketplaces as the go-to market, along with Shopify or D2C. So for some of the brands we have seen is Shopify or D2C becomes like a 40, 50% channel, but the marketplace like big baskets of the world also become like a 40, 50% channel. So D2C only brand in the food space is slightly, I've seen more difficult to build.
Okay. And so what would you say the average ROAS over a longer term is once you have enough repeat percentages, around 40%, and you built up the store for some time?
Yes, in those cases, we have seen ROAS go up to around 2x, 2x to 2.2, 2.3x in most cases.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Anshuk, for taking this beautiful, insightful session. Right, I'm sure like we have another 2 more days to engage with our merchants, and
Yeah,
hope it
one
will
more
be.
thing I want to actually answer. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, what should be the typical users for a D2C brand? How many users per month actually do you think before he goes for a like CD day round kind of a thing? He's pre-revenue like once a year on annual revenue. What should be the typical users in the website?
See, what we usually recommend is, let's say, base for any DTC website should be, let's say, a budget of 3 lakh in terms of your ad spend. Typical clicks, generally cost of click blended around 10 rupees, which means around 30,000 people coming to the DTC website on a monthly basis. Sort of this is like the starting point, which means around 1,000 people coming each day. And at a conversion rate of around 2% or 1.5, 15 to 20 conversions each day. So that is something which you have seen, which brands are able to establish, which typically gives a signal that the product market fit is achieved, after which, of course, the VC funding or the seed funding follows. I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anshuk, and thanks, Aman, for taking a list of questions answered in the chat box. Thank you to you, Aman. Right, so we are towards the end of the session, right? So we will come back tomorrow for the rest of the sessions that we have planned. So tomorrow again, we have lined up some series of Shopify essentials, conversion rate optimization, deals, loyalty, and readiness to the mega sale events, right? But before we drop off, can I request like Anshuk, if you could close your presentation, and if all of us could just quickly open your camera just to click a small picture, because in a physical event we would have done this much better, but given that we are on IRL, so it would be really nice. And whosoever like wants to take it, just click a snapshot. Nice. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I think most of your questions would have been answered in the chat box. If not, we are available for the next couple of days as well, right? And more importantly, we try to answer all the questions, but just in case if you miss out on anything, please do reach out us in map2022@shopify.com, map2022@shopify.com, right? Just in case we are not missing out on any of your queries, and we are happy to help, right? Okay, that was a super first day of the first edition, right? Thank you very much for joining, and 2 more days to go, and let's stay connected. Have a good rest of the day.
Just before you leave, thank you very much. And is there a way for us to personally bug you if we need something, like offline email?
We are pretty much available in the email ID that I shared, Chaitanya, map2022@shopify.com. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you.
can
And then
redirect, and
request
we can redirect the questions to the partners as well. So feel free
Sure.
to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely, I look forward to the presentation PPTs.
Yeah. Sure, we'll share that.
Thank you. Bye.
So this is that email ID. All right. Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks, Jagan. Thanks, everyone.